Let's get into this real quick. So here's basically the stuff that you need to know about this situation real quick. There is an immense historic moment that just occurred, which is basically that the federal government, by and through the House, has just, for the first time in history, for the longest shutdown in history, reopened essentially the government through the House signing the bill. Now, they have to still get it signed by Trump to officially reopen it, but he's already agreed to go ahead and sign it. We know he's going to sign it. So we know that food stamps, which is what this video is about. And this video is very simple. When should you receive your full food stamps? That's the whole point of this video. If you've already received them, good, awesome. But let me kind of explain the legal details and also the constructive bullet points of what's coming up, what they have to process. So if this ever happens to you again, you will know what's going on. So essentially, when will they go ahead and pay your full food stamps going forward? Now, just to be clear, this particular bill, which I never thought was going to be passed by the Republicans, because, at the end of the day, you just don't really expect the Republicans to be the ones to like reopen the government and, basically it's kind of like a side caveat thing to it, but to actually promote, the repayment of the food stamps going on. So let me go through this real quick. This was a bill passed in the House and the Senate. It's called the Continuing Appropriations Agriculture Legislative Branch Military Construction and Veterans Affairs and Extension Act of 2026. So in other words, they picked the shittiest name they possibly could, and they just shoved a bunch of words in there, wrote it as quickly as they could, and got it out. Now, here's what you need to know. There are certain things that have to happen with this whole situation. Number one, this bill, which now goes to Trump, which I doubt he's not going to sign it tonight. He's not going to sign it on Wednesday. He will likely sign it on Thursday or Friday. Now, as you know, Trump's team is not against working over the weekend. So my belief is he'll either sign it tomorrow to like rah, and say he was the savior of food stamps, he was the savior of the media, he was the savior of the basically military and the this and that. And he will go ahead and likely either sign it tomorrow to really capture that, or he will Michael Jackson it. He will be giving a waiting period before he officially signs it to build anticipation, get a bunch of people basically behind him, and then sign that thing live on Friday. Now, why is this important? Trump just changed the Democratic Party. A lot of you are sitting back going like, yay, he's going to reopen the government. I don't think you realize what's now going to happen. So you know how my people are like, the Jewish people. And so my people basically tend to vote Democrat. Or they used to tend to vote Democrat. A lot of them have obviously moved away from that. But what happened now is that the Democratic Party is now changing away from the old guard, which are mostly, basically Ashkenazi, Jewish people, which are German Jewish people. And what's happening now is Latino, and then some African-American and LGBTQ plus community and basically the Islamic community are taking over now. They're taking over the Democratic Party. So the new big push of the Democratic Party going forward is going to be a push for LGBTQ plus rights and a push for Islam and Muslim rights. And so the bottom line is the old school Democratic Party is now going to be pushed out as the old guard, and all the new faces, the AOCs and things like that, are going to overtake the Senate, overtake the House, and we're not going to have any resemblance to the old school Democratic Party that we used to have. So like the Clinton Democrats, the RFK Democrats, the JFK Democrats, all of that is now shifting away into the new, more modern Democratic Party. I don't think it's going to go full woke, but it's obviously going to take another step towards woke. Now, with that said, and this is massive, the first thing that they need to do when it comes to getting this bill signed so that you can get your full amount of food stamps, and this is important. Very cool, very cool. I see some people just did new memberships. I see Interior Family True Crime. Excellent. Kosher, he's the moderator. Excellent. Very good. All right, so here's the deal. Basically, there needs to be what's called the enrollment period or process. That's where a congressional staff gets together and they will prepare the official version, like a final version of the bill, and it's called the enrolled bill. And that is basically where it makes sure that it matches between the House and the Senate with the text. And then basically from there, they go ahead and do this. It's usually handled by the clerk of the House and the secretary of the Senate. And then they will go ahead and, take this, and, it takes a couple hours. They're probably working on it right now because, Trump is, I don't know if you've noticed, but like Trump, when it comes to his like political allies, it's almost like he's like leaning on their chest, on their body, and like just being like, you better get this done, you better get this done. You notice that like people like love him, and then after a short period they're like, I can't put up with him, he's a tyrannical blah blah, but he pushes them. I would not be surprised if basically the secretary of the Senate and the clerk of the House get that thing out either tonight or tomorrow morning to have the full enrolled bill that should be on its way to Trump. Now, with that said, Trump has known for about a day and a half to 2 days, realistically, that this thing was going to pass, that this thing was going to go through. I mean, we could have seen the Democrats schmooze a Republican to go ahead and basically have a Republican, or they would need basically three. Two-ish, three-ish, it depends on how it goes with the Democratic votes. Then you would have needed that to fail this bill in the House. But what's happening is he knew something was going to likely pass here. So he's had a couple of days to call the people to get them ready to show up for the signing of this bill. So in my opinion, because of the amount of ego that he has, because he's Trump. Like Trump is like its own, like there's Yamaha is a name, right? Samsung is a name, right? Trump is a name. Because he is a name brand person, it is my belief that he will probably either later in the day tomorrow or early Friday morning be the one who signs the bill to reopen the government to save Christmas, right? So, and he's going to probably sell the Democrats as the Grinch at this point. So the whole point here is, it is my expectation that this presentation will occur basically probably tomorrow. It's formally delivered to the White House. The president has it for consideration. The president gets to go through it. And then basically, all the constitutional requirements of, a general overview are met for him to go ahead and sign it at the desk. And you know what he does? Then he gets a big Sharpie, a big old Sharpie, opens up his fancy book, right? Has a nice leather bound or whatever bound, and he does a scribble, and then poof, the government magically begins to open again. Now, with that said, just so that you're fully aware, this was the end of a 43-day shutdown. I just want to point out why we had a shutdown of the government, where a lot of government employees didn't get paid. A lot of Social Security employees didn't get paid. A lot of air traffic control people didn't get paid. The reason this happened was that it was the classic, what people call the swamp side, which are, basically all politicians who have been, Republican and Democrat, who have been in office for a really long time. The people, like, when they slide into their, office space, like, that's been their office space for decades and decades, right? So the classic swamp, that's your rhinos, that's your Democrats that have been in for 25 plus years, stuff like that. Against the more modern, very spicy, tweeters, which are, of course, the Republicans that are under Trump. Because, let's call it like it is. There's no real Republican Party anymore but for Trump. You have some people that don't like Trump but still vote Republican, but for the most part, Trump is, woke defines Democrat for the now, for the existence now, and then Trump defines Republican. Those are like your two main, giant pieces of sourdough bread on both sides, okay? So those are your two things. They keep growing as they grow and they grow and they grow, and they keep baking into this new piece of bread that is whatever they're supposed to be. So as a result of this, okay, you had basically the people on the left saying, hey, we want Obama era stuff. The people on the right, the Republicans, said there ain't no way we're paying for the Obama era stuff. Now, look, what's weird, I don't know if you've taken time to study it or check it out or just go through it all. What's weird about it is that if you look at essentially, back in the day, just wait, so they're saying Trump is signing it now? Hold on, let me check. Hold on. Donald Trump signing bill. Man, if he's doing that, let's see. House passes bill. I'm not seeing it. Congress sends bill ending. Hold on, let me see. Let's see. White House vows Trump will sign good faith shutdown. I'm not seeing that he's signing it yet. Let's see. Hold on. To reopen government. Hold on, let me check real quick because that'll change everything. If he's pushing that hard, that'll change everything. Guys, do you have a link to specifically? Thank you, Misty, by the way. Super thank you. Let me put a little heart there. That's amazing. Let me see real quick. All right, so let's see what's going on here. We're saying Trump is signing. He's signing. They're saying he's signing it right now. All right. So if he signs it right now, here's what you need to know. That means that it'll take between 3 to 4 days for food stamps to potentially go ahead and pay out. Okay, that is amazing. That means they signed it. A couple hours later, they created the enrolled bill. It was then sent over to the White House. He's got it, and now he's signing it. That is mind-blowing. All right, cool. All right, so let's go through this real quick. Here's the things that need to happen basically for food stamps to basically pay out. Number one, President Trump needs to sign the bill. Sounds like he's doing that right now. Number two, the government needs to reopen, right? So that'll take about a day to 48 hours to go ahead and process that. But guessing that he's signing the bill, probably Friday, the government will be reopened. Funding will then be allocated and processed. This usually takes about 2 to 3 days for them to get everything ramped up and get all the calculations going. Expect that there might be some issues where you don't receive enough, you might receive too much, things like that. So just be aware, if you do receive too much, make sure you report it because they will come back to you. Then basically, once they have all the math settled and everything's good to go, they will do a benefit issuance. That's where they basically go ahead and process and get all the funds out there. And then you're covered until January 30th of 2026 because this bill is just a short-term payment system going to that point to keep funding the federal government. Let's talk about the things that could potentially slow down the actual payment. That way everybody is on board and everybody agrees. Okay, let's go through it real quick. Okay, they're saying it's signed officially. Wow. Okay, big Sharpie has been utilized. Man, Trump does not sleep. He must be on the same caffeine abuse program that I'm on because that man is just, I don't know how he does it. He is way too old to be up at this point. It's just way too old. All right, with that said, let's check it out. Things that could slow down basically the process of this whole thing. As you know, they have to redo a bunch of math and reprocess. There could be system errors. There could be system overloads. There could be technical issues because remember, they did fire and retire and furlough a heck of a lot of tech people. Another thing is that they have a backlog of applications and recertifications that need to be processed. And that's because a lot of people were still allowed to file for benefits while the shutdown occurred. Some states wouldn't let them, but most states did. Also, keep in mind, they have to get the staff back. Not everybody stayed at the federal government when it shut down. Some people left, they kissed it goodbye and said, we're going to go get a different job in a different industry. Next one, this whole adjustment of partial payment situation. A lot of people got a different amount because they used different math with the USDA to calculate how much you should get. Some people who would normally get benefits, some of them didn't get benefits at all because of the new math being used. And so as a result of that, it's one of those situations where you might be still seeing some benefits or an increase of benefits under the new math. Also, don't forget, under the big, beautiful bill, a lot of people in November, at the beginning of November, will no longer be eligible, millions, for food stamps. Why? SNAP benefits have been cut off for a lot of able-bodied individuals and a lot of what are called entrants, who are basically, essentially immigrants and those who are legally here. Now, as you know, Trump beat Schumer in the battle over whether or not a lot of funding is going to go towards local clinics, emergency rooms, stuff like that. So just be heads up when it comes to using medical in rural areas. Medical, in places where there's high poverty, don't expect those clinics to be as open and as willing to help you in the future. Now, remember, there are state-specific variations due to population size, EBT contractors, administrative changes, efficiencies that they have to kind of work through. I expect that this will take anywhere from potentially 2 to 3 days, but I also expect Trump will make it a goal to push through the weekend. So I'm thinking realistically, if he just signed it and he just whooped with his pen, I'm thinking at this point that he will essentially go ahead and have whoever he can get going at the state level to process food stamps right away. Now, remember, the blue states are pissed at him. So they're probably going to take more time to wiggle waggle and finagle daggle with setting up paying out the rest of the food stamps, which, to be honest, will just make them look bad, especially now that they just had their loss against Trump, who got enough Democrats to sign in the Senate to get it pushed through at the House. And this is a huge win for Trump. I did not think he was going to be able to pull this off. To be totally honest with you, I thought he was going to have to bend a knee more, specifically to Schumer. And to my great surprise, he just sunk Schumer's battleship. Like, Schumer's career is likely to be over now. The old guard, the old way, the old this, you're going to have more what I would call fanatic or religious level doctrinal, attachment to the left now. I'm thinking you're going to be seeing more politicians on the left that are more like they believe in their version of religion, and their version of religion is, anti-fascist, anti-king, etc. Although, of course, it is funny to watch those videos where we see people who are paid to protest not knowing what a fascist is, how to define it. And that's my thing too. I think Soros should, to be fair, open up an education platform or a school for the people he's paying to, go out there and basically march and hold signs. I think they should be more educated. Like, when I look at this, like, the Republicans should not be able to embarrass these paid protesters like this. Like, they should have an education. What is a fascist? What is a racist? What is this bill about? What are you trying to fight for? What are you trying to do? This, and that. I think that there needs to be like a Soros school on, anti-government policy, or I don't know, something, because it's not a good look for Soros. It's not a good look for him and all the people he's paying. Now, remember, when it comes to coordination delays, most of this stuff, obviously, file transmission, they have to get it to the contractors. The contractors have to put the math together. Then they have to process the payment out through the system. The system has to then process the payment out to the cards. So your EBT cards have to be, receiving it. I'm honestly, if he just signed it into law, I'm honestly thinking Monday, Tuesday. I'm thinking Monday, Tuesday, these food stamps will be paid out. I think he's going to put his foot on the chest of the people that have the potential to process these payments over the weekend and get them all working extra. That's what I'm thinking. I'm really thinking that. I don't know. Maybe he'll find an extra way to fund them to work over the weekend. I'm not really sure. Now, with that said, just so you guys understand it, the reason that this is such an incredible thing, the lower chamber passed it with 222 to 209 votes. So, just to be clear, it was almost strictly party lines. Only 2 Republicans opposed the measure to protest the deficit spending, while 6 Democrats hopped the aisle to support it, citing the importance of getting federal funding flowing again. And this is specifically from The Hill, which is basically, a news agency. What I think is interesting about this is that the Democrats had their 2 Republicans to go ahead and try and fail the vote. They had another Republican to, go ahead and, basically say, no, we're not going to pass it. Then Schumer would have had his win, but Schumer didn't get it. And there were enough Democrats that crossed the aisle to the Republican side that this changed everything. Now, this was the quasi-political tombstone of, I think, what are my people's political existence going forward in the Democratic Party. Just hear me out. I feel like my people, the Jewish people, are going to, remember, I'm a registered independent. You have Republicans, you have Democrats. I feel like many of the Jewish people are going to go ahead and become independents and then vote sometimes left and vote sometimes right. I think that's where this whole thing is going with the Jewish population. Now, remember, the Jewish population is important because it is one of the larger funding groups when it comes to political finance, making sure that they have enough for marketing campaigns, SEO campaigns, all that stuff. So I think the Democratic Party is going to have to rely more on foreign countries paying them in the future to go ahead and be able to have funding to compete in the political arena. But I do believe, Muslim-backed countries in the Middle East, I do believe China, I do believe some of these other countries that are, very, very good ties with the Democratic Party will be able to, in the future, fund them even more so. However, I do feel like, to be fair, I think a lot of Jewish money is going to go towards the Republican Party in the future. Because at this point, you have to understand, LGBTQ plus is not compatible with basically, Muslim, Islam type of ideology. They're just not compatible. You can be one or the other. I don't care what you are. But the bottom line is these are not compatible. Similarly, Islam is not compatible with basically the Jewish religion and the Jewish faith and culture in the United States. And just so you guys know, a lot of the Jewish people in the United States, many of you think of Jewish people as like Israeli Americans. That's not accurate. So the reality is, yes, there are those individuals in the United States, but a big chunk of them are what are called Ashkenazis, which are basically German Jewish people which is where I came from. Germany, Austria, Ukraine, Jewish mom and, background. We were basically, we fled, we were essentially refugees, asylum seekers, stuff like that, out of Germany because bottom line, obviously, World War II Germany did not like us. Now, and remember too, we were mostly used as, financial individuals, scientists, mathematicians, stuff like that. In fact, my grandmother was one of the ones who was the main key figures for inventing a lot of the math for autopilot with aviation. But the bottom line is, just so you're understanding, there's a massive political shift that is about to occur. And my belief is that the new future of the Democratic Party, as a result of Schumer not being able to, round up all these people, will be to go ahead and, essentially get rid of the Ashkenazis from the Democratic Party. And then at that point, the Democratic Party will be mostly led by LGBTQ plus individuals and probably Muslim individuals going forward. That seems to be the hot new ticket with that side of things. It's an interesting thing. I'm not going to go into whether or not people should support woke / Sharia law. Those are your choices. You can go ahead and have your own beliefs on that. But again, there is a massive political change here. And what's ironic about this is that all of the mega individuals that charged Trump, that went after Trump, that were aggressive towards Trump in the House and the Senate, they just had their hands with their hats in them handed to them. Because at this point now, Trump has his win. He gets to reopen the government. You're going to see he's about to get a massive boost in how much people actually think he's a good thing. And you got to understand, this is a weird moment. He was against paying out food stamps because he wanted the food stampers, and I don't mean any offense by that, it's just easier to say that. He wanted the food stampers to be pissed off at Schumer, call his office, and get Schumer to bend a knee. That ain't never going to happen, right? Recipients who are impoverished, who are basically homeless, people who receive food stamps, that's not how they work, right? If you did that to the middle class would have been showing up, knocking on the door of Schumer saying, hey, you better get this thing passed. We expect it passed tomorrow. But that's not how the impoverished work. The impoverished don't have the money to go places. They don't have the money to go ahead and do super long phone calls because a lot of them have minute phones. So at the end of the day, just to be clear, Trump, I think, tactically made a big F up when it comes to expecting the hyper-impoverished, the food stamp recipients, to go ahead, right? And I mean, it's not even hyper. It's most people now. Like post-COVID, just to be fair, Biden's economy, the Bidenomics, there's so many poor people now. Like, if you think back 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, America was a totally different place. It's just people could go on vacation. They could go ahead and buy an RV. They could do all these things. Now it's like people just don't have money. You know what I mean? Like, who's going to put a down payment on a house? Who's going to do that? None of these millennials have money like that. They don't have they just need to save more. How are they going to save when they have 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, $1 million worth of student loans? I mean, I'm down to just under 300,000 now, but point is, like, you got to recognize, like, which brings me to my follow-up point. I do not believe, even with these massive reductions put in place by Trump, I do not believe the amount of food stampers is going to massively decline once he passes these things. And here's why. He's skimmed and reduced and cut off as much basically as he possibly can without really encroaching into people who really do need food stamps. I mean, some of them that were cut off still did as well. At this point, he has to fix our economy so that other nations continue to use the US dollar. And remember, Japan's looking at tying their currency back to, gold standard type of stuff. So are other nations. And if other nations do that, people will want to trade in their currency, not the US currency, which will massively inflate the prices that you pay for the basic things that you need. So Trump has an almost impossible job in front of him, which is to save the economy, to get other countries to spend their, currency to buy US currency to trade with other nations, get loans, etc. It is my opinion, if I were in charge, if I were the president, I could never pull it off. I could never convince that many leaders to basically do that many negotiated deals to save our currency. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm going to be straight with you. Nobody in this chat or comment section would be able to do it. I don't believe Trump can do it, but if he pulls it off, again, it will be like another how the hell did he do it moment. We're right now in a how the hell did he do it moment. He convinced, right, old school Democrats to potentially, and remember, this is what was on there. This is what was on the Democrats that went to the Republican side on this. They were facing the situation of either they are going to be destroyed by their party, which they're going to attempt to do. With Democrats, what Democrats do, along with Republicans, is that if you go against the main herd, they will call you out. The Republicans do it too. So they're facing basically two potential options. Number one, the party of Democrats will destroy the reputations and careers of those who just sided with turning on food stamps and turning on the government for Trump. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's how it's coming down. They are relying, these Democrats are relying that the people in their states will appreciate enough that they got the government back on, got the benefits rolling again, et cetera, et cetera. They are relying on the people of their states to understand, which is risky, that they helped save the government go back online. That's risky because you know that the Democrats for the next 2 weeks are going to do campaign after campaign on TV, on billboard, on radio news hosts. You better believe it. Campaign after campaign. You'll see influencers. You're going to see influencers talking about Social Security benefits and food stamps and stuff, damning, right? Talking about Medicare and Medicaid and this and that, damning those Democratic, those Democrat-oriented senators. How could they? How could they, right? You're going to see them doing a slam campaign against them. And the only thing those politicians have is either get out soon, right, and leave the political arena, and then for the rest of your life have to look over your shoulder, or B, hope that the people will reinstate you into the position that you want, which is very interesting. And I don't think I don't notice, like I'm fully aware and I've noticed that all of a sudden when there's like election cheating reports, they have videos of people doing certain things, all of a sudden a flurry from the legacy news groups comes out and says, no, that's not true. No, the footage isn't accurate. No, it's not this. No, it's not that. Don't think I don't notice what's going on with that. Don't think I don't see them trying to rewrite the search words and the target audience and the this and that for that. Don't think I don't see that stuff, because let's just be honest, okay? The only way you can have an election that actually works, like is fair, is right on, is you have to have it so that it is linked to the specific person's DNA to be able to vote. I'm talking like, something that is specific to the person on a blockchain where, their vote is cast and every other system knows that only that one phone can achieve and do that one thing. What we have now is they're not even checking in some voting areas actual IDs, with like a face on it. So they don't even. It's just mind blowing. It's mind blowing. But that's going to change. That's going to change. I just, I don't know if you guys realize this, but like, and we've done these videos. I've done Social Security videos where we talk about the people who are arrested from the Social Security Administration that were selling Social Security numbers to people who would sell it to immigrants, right? My point to you is, at the end of the day, and I think this is very important, I think people should have a voice. And I think the voice should accurately reflect how many voices are in the country. And I'm not saying that people who are immigrants here shouldn't have a voice, because, remember, certain levels of, naturalization, they get to have a voice when it comes to voting. But it is my opinion that at the end of the day, if you want to be in this country, for an extended period, and don't get me wrong, I have a lot of friends who have basically come to this country and stay too long. That's just, they do that. It is what it is. I get it. You know what I mean? But it is my opinion that it would just be easier if you work on getting naturalized. You know what I mean? It would just be easier if you join the program and make it make sense so that you have a future. Nobody wants to live like a homeless person wondering when the police are going to come and kick them out of the forest where they've set up their tent. Nobody wants to live like that. So I think that it's going to be very interesting. One thing I didn't like about this situation, okay? One thing I didn't like about this entire situation, which I think is incredibly, incredibly important for you guys to think about, we've pulled back now funding to rural medical facilities, to emergency clinics, emergency rooms. We've pulled back funding specifically for those areas. Look, here's my thing. Trump has not captured a significant percentage of those who are here illegally in this country. He's not even close. Okay, he's not even close to the tens of millions that have come into this country illegally. So he's not even close. So we still have tens of millions of people in this country illegally that are going to need medical treatment. And that forces them to be in a position where now all of a sudden they've got to go to a medical facility. They got to hand over their identification, on and on and on. Now we have, okay, so that's not going to work for them. Now there's going to be a whole industry where there have to be like under the table doctors that are willing to treat these people who get sick. Here's my thing. If you don't want bacteria, fungus, if you don't want viruses to spread rampantly, you have to treat the population that you inherited, not the population that you just want to treat. So in my opinion, I think they should have funded these rural clinics, these emergency rooms. In my opinion, I think they should have. Yes, it would have been money towards illegal aliens. Yes, I get that. I think they should have, though, for a short period of time. Give ICE what they need to get it fixed, but still fund them for a short period of time. That way, all the citizens, especially the disabled, especially the retired, who are more likely to get sick, just, let's make sure we treat all the people here that could potentially cause some sort of viral problem. Because remember, a lot of you are sitting there going like, I'll never get sick. I don't go anywhere that's going to make me sick. I get my groceries delivered. Please. A little bit of the turning on the brain moment we need to have, okay? Number one, when groceries are delivered to you, do you realize how many trucks, how many hands, how many insects, how many things have touched those groceries? Just to be clear, somebody in the lineup is probably not here legally that touched them. And just to be clear, right? Somebody in the lineup is probably sick who touched them. You get them. Oh, well, I Lysol them all. No, you don't. You don't Lysol every single box that you get. Maybe you do. Maybe you have OCD. Maybe you do. And then you would. But otherwise, let's just be fair, okay? We do not have a nation that is super, ultra, hyper clean. We don't, okay? The stuff we get, it doesn't go into a magical bag that spritzes it all and then magically it's clean. We don't have that here. So the point that I'm getting at is, I don't know. I just don't want to see another COVID. Because remember, if we get another COVID, the next COVID could be even worse. Now, I will say this. When it comes to Trump, every time he gets in office, a couple of years go by, and then Pharaoh leveling events occur. There's blood in the Nile. There's crickets, right? There's all this stuff. Well, not crickets, but you know what I mean? There's all this stuff going on that is just a massive, massive, holy cannoli, I can't believe this is happening situation. Okay, I expect, maybe you should, next year or 2027, that some major catastrophe type event will occur that we never expected. It just seems to happen when he's in office. It just seems to happen to him. Okay, now, with that said, I hope you guys understand that there's two main factors, just to summarize this video. Factor number one, you may not be getting food stamps because of the new big, beautiful bill changes. Excuse me. Factor number two, they may screw up your calculations. Factor number three, you probably see food stamps paid out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday area of next week if you didn't receive your full amount or you didn't receive any. With that said, please remember, I don't do Medicare questions. If you have Medicare questions, you want them to do a tune-up on your Medicare plan, your program, give them a call, 339-226-6287. Again, 339-226-6287. It is askchapter.org/disability. I don't do Medicare questions, but later tonight, I will be answering questions for free about Social Security disability law. Now, final detail. Trump is going to go ahead and shape this like he is the ultimate. He is the greatest that's ever been. He's going to shape it like that. Don't just watch what the Republicans do. Watch what the younger Democrats are doing, because you're going to see my people, the Ashkenazis, right? The old German Jewish people that were in the Democratic Party, you are going to see them completely being withdrawn, being voted out, being changed, being chastised. You are going to see their future in the Democratic Party ended. And then you have to ask yourself, what does that mean for the vacuum effect? Right. So, okay, if the German Jewish people that usually were in federal government as a senator, as a House rep, as a whatever, if those people are now going to be replaced by mostly woke, LGBTQ plus, Islam-oriented people, what that means now is that there will be a vacuum effect. So you got to then watch to see how the Democratic Party will reshape itself because of this moment right now. And then also, will the Republican Party grow into more of the Democratic Party? You might see more Jewish people joining and becoming the super middle left of the Republican Party. Or will you see the Jewish people creating essentially a new middle ground, and then they'll just vote left or right, however they see fit? It's going to be a massive, massive, unique situation where at the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that there are a lot of individuals who basically, oh my God, Maria just said you are a fake Jew, laughing my ass off. Okay, so just to clarify, those are so I get attacked a lot because I have a Christian father and a Jewish mother, right? And so one of the things you have to understand, I've done obviously a lot in the community. I've been, from Hillel to go ahead, and I was the president of the Jewish Association, law school, all that stuff. The thing that I think is funny is that I get Christians specifically who attack me for absolutely no reason at the end of the day. And I just want to point out to you, like, just to be clear on this, if you are a particular religion, if you are a particular background, if you wanted people to understand where you're coming from, realize this: they never will, they never can, they will never try hard enough to even try a little bit to understand it. Always understand that people are never going to put forth the effort to actually reach out to you and understand your side. It's never going to happen. Nobody really cares about what the Jewish people went through at the end of the day, right? I'll tell you how I know that. I went to go see Nuremberg, right? I went to go see it, all right? I watched the movie. I was in the theater. Nobody else, second day after opening, was in the theater watching that movie. People don't care. If they made a movie about African Americans and the slave trade that occurred, how many people do you think would go watch it? Not enough. Not enough. People don't give a shit what your people have gone through. They don't care anymore because everybody's suffering. After the whole Bidenomics, the low money, COVID, all that, people don't have the money to care. And even if they did, they ain't going to reach across the aisle and ask you how you're doing like that. They don't want to know. They just want you to tell them you're fine and keep going. That's reality. All right. With that said, I hope you all have an amazing, amazing day. At the end of the day, I hope you realize that this is a massive change politically. Food stamps, think of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they'll be rocking and rolling from there, okay? All right, Attorney Walter Hnot, I hope you have an amazing night. I'm going to be doing the next video in about 10 minutes. Please remember to like and subscribe. Don't be afraid to hit that like button and hype the video. Head over to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm, throw some stars up there if you get a chance. We will be going live tonight. If you need a bigger consultation, 30-minute or 1 hour, boom, 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 right below is the mini contract. I'll catch you at the next video in about 10 minutes, and we'll rock and roll from there. Attorney Walter Hnot, and thank you, everybody who's nice to me. And those who are mean to me, it is what it is. I can't change it. I love you, though. I'll give you a big hug. I'll give you a big old hug. All right, I'll catch you later. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.